This is a special episode brought to you by IBM. Generative AI is ushering a new era of technological transformation. From finance, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing, industries are leveraging AI to drive innovations and deliver unprecedented value. While this technology holds immense promise for revolutionizing various sectors, it also raises important questions about responsible development and collaboration. Hi, I'm your host, Deepti Ahuja, Head of Content at HT Smartcast. And today we will dive into the anticipated evolution of generative AI, its industry wide impact, and how organizations and technologists can gear up for these changes. We'll also explore why open innovation is a vital part of AI's progress and how to address the trust and security challenges that it presents, especially for enterprises. We are joined by Sriram Raghavan, Vice President, IBM Research AI, to discuss the future of generative AI and the critical role open innovation plays in its development. Mr. Raghavan has the global responsibility for establishing and executing a wide ranging research agenda that spans foundational and applied AI. He is responsible for the transfer of technology from IBM Research to IBM's multi billion-dollar software business. He has over 20 years of experience in the field of AI research. Hi, Mr. Raghavan, how are you? Welcome to Mint Techcetra.
Hi, Deepti. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on this program.
The pleasure's all ours. So to begin with, at IBM, you've been constantly pushing boundaries of AI and now generative AI. Looking ahead, what are some of the key developments we can expect in the evolution of this technology in, the coming decades?
Okay, so Deepti, I'm going to first begin with, I think in a technology like AI, making predictions over a decade is always, dangerous because you see a rapid pace of innovation. But I do think that some of the vectors of innovation are starting to become clear. So if I step back and play forward how we got where we are, you can sort of think of AI as having gone through, let's say, 4 eras of innovation. There was, when we first started to do AI, we built these expert systems, rule-based systems with logic and knowledge. That didn't really scale. Then we had the era of machine learning where we said, I'm going to use data to learn. And that was, if you will, maybe the first practical era with large-scale applications. That continues today. Then was the era of deep learning, where when you had large amounts of labeled data available, you could build models based on that. And we saw a lot of use of deep learning in consumer companies, shopping, social media. Then the era that we are in right now, the era of generative AI or foundation models, is where we build models on large amounts of data without any labeled data using a technique called self-supervision. And we are right in the, if you will, early stages of really understanding and exploiting the technology and a lot of opportunity and potential. So if I look ahead, what are sort of the couple of technology vectors that I see a lot of activity going on, both in academia and industry labs like ours? First is making these large language foundation models more efficient, able to do more at potentially smaller scale, cheaper. So how do I optimize performance? I think is a big area of, and so I think we're already seeing more and more compact models that we can run quickly, efficiently, so that we can get all those benefits without having to spend a lot of money to host the models. I think that's one vector. A second area clearly is, as you may know, this era of AI is based on a particular architecture called the transformer architecture. And everything we're seeing is sort of modifications or evolution of that. I think we're definitely going to see new architecture innovations. The transformer architecture is very good at what it does, but we know it's expensive. So there's lots of innovation on how should we adapt the architecture. That's a second area. And the third very exciting area is, it's clear that in real applications, it's not just about one model getting you to do that. This notion of agents, where you have different models with different capabilities that collaboratively work together. Just as human beings with different skills come together as a team to solve a problem, I think this era of agents or agentic workflows, I think that's going to come. So in short order to your question, 3 main areas: efficiency and cost optimization, new architectures, and this whole notion of agentic workflow. I think those are the 3 things I see coming on the horizon.
Interesting. On that note, as generative AI continues to evolve, what kind of impact do you foresee it will have, it having on various industries and applications? And more interestingly, like which sectors do you think will be most affected by this technology?
Yeah, so great question. And I think something we're all thinking about. So, my first top level answer would be uh, I firmly believe, and I think we believe in IBM, that this is the kind of technology that isn't going to be limited to a geography or a sector or an industry. So, we sort of, sometimes go back to even the industrial revolution and draw a parallel to the impact of AI being at the scale of industrial revolution. So, my top level answer is in the fullness of time, everything is going to be affected. Now,
Okay.
your question is, where are we going to see more immediate impact? I think I want to separate that into maybe two categories. One
Okay.
is in enterprises or business. I think the biggest use of AI that we're seeing is broadly around productivity, and it's related to automation, very broadly. Now, that gets broken down to what am I automating? How, what am I making more productive?
Yeah.
Sometimes it is customer service and call centers. Sometimes it is internal employee productivity. Sometimes it's productivity of software development. Sometimes it's productivity of SREs who run IT systems. All
Hmm.
of these examples are starting to happen. So I would say the big category is around enterprise productivity and automation. I think that's going to be the area where we're going to see a lot of impact. We are seeing a lot of impact. And at least at IBM, we're doubling down on, if you will, three major application areas where we see both market opportunity and potential. One is the area of customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Second is the area of application modernization. A lot of clients are sitting on legacy IT systems that they want to modernize,
True.
and automating the modernization is the second big area. I think the third one is just business process automation. So those three areas we see plenty of opportunity, and we are doubling now. That's what
Okay.
sort of business category. The other category, which I am very excited personally as a scientist at heart, is the impact that AI is going to have on science itself, on discovery. So when we think about the impact of AI on discovering new molecules, discovering new drugs, new materials that are more sustainable, I think we're barely scratching the surface on the impact that AI is going to have. So those are
Hmm.
the two big buckets.
Interesting. Could you elaborate on the business side of things a little bit for our
Okay.
audience to understand that?
Yeah. So think about. Let me give you a few examples. Right. One, I'll give you actually a very personal example for us here at IBM. Is the work that we have been doing over the last few years, applying both pre-generative AI and now generative AI technologies in how we deal with our own HR systems. So IBM is
Right.
a big company. We operate in 150 plus countries. We have more than 250,000 employees across the globe. So HR is a big problem, right? It's a big problem where we want to offer productive capabilities for our employees, respond to their questions and answers, be personalized, at the same time not do that effectively. So through the deployment of generative AI technology, at IBM, we have been able to automate over 12,000 hours worth of HR tasks. So these are mundane tasks that a HR professional would have had to address. Something very mundane, things that you would imagine, onboarding something,
Hmm.
verifying a document, and then saying, okay, this, or issuing an ID. We are being able to drive automation through AI so that our HR professionals can now focus on the more high value things like coaching, mentoring, career development, things that require much more nuanced engagement. So that's a very concrete example. We continue to see benefits. And it's actually very germane right now. Like we are in the beginning of the, well, depending on where you are in the world, either at the end of vacation or beginning of vacation, summer vacation in the US. And just leave policy is an important question. How do I apply? Where am I? What am I eligible for? Being able to answer those questions personalized for the role, the geography, the location of the employee, give them quick answers at a click of a button, allowing them to apply registered leave. It's enormous how much productivity it drives. So
Right.
that's a very concrete example.
Right. Uh, Great example, but how should organizations, apart from the HR side of things, how should the organizations and even technologists, for that matter of fact, prepare to effectively leverage and integrate this technology into their work? What steps, should they take now to stay ahead of the curve?
No, again, great question, Deepti. I think this is again top of mind for every CIO, every CEO, every board out there. So,
Right.
couple of tidbits of let's say advice or principles that I think work very well. One is to yes, I mean there's a lot of experimentation going on, and we totally get it. But one of the things we see companies, the successful ones, do is quickly bet on a use case that scales. So as opposed to doing 100 little things, getting a use case that scales with your company. I go back to our HR example. The reason that was great for us is for IBM, it scales. When we started rolling one, we know that when we touch 10 employees, we know we are going to be able to touch 100,000 employees. When we go to one country, we have 150 countries to go. Whatever it is for every company, is it your scale maybe through products, the number of products you touch, the number of locations you touch, the number of customers. Pick use cases that are going to scale because you are going to need scale to really get the benefits because you're going to spend to deploy this AI and you want to be able to derive the benefits. So double down quickly on a use case that you know intuitively scales with your business. That's one principle. I think the second principle is start to think about, recognize AI not just as a tool or a technique, because in the world of generative AI and models, AI is a platform. So start to think platform. Start to know that whatever you're doing right now, you're going to do 100 such instances of this, and you're going to do it in HR, in legal, in finance, or whatever your business is. So start to think platform, because what you don't want to do is to do it in 100 different ways. You're just going to, not be effective and automated. I think the third element I would say is double down on thinking about trust and governance. Because in enterprises, that's absolutely critical. You cannot afford to have AI that you cannot stand behind. And so focusing on elements of trust, governance, managing risk, knowing the provenance of data, knowing what models you're using, transparency, those become critical. So those are the three elements I would say are important to think about. And the last piece, which cuts across all of this, is yes, you are deploying technology, but there's always a people element. So an organizational transformation of skilling up your people, getting them comfortable with AI. I think that's a journey that every company, whether or not you're a technology company, needs to go through.
Interesting. And I'll definitely come back to ethical governance. But you mentioned science and you mentioned innovations and you mentioned medicine and trust. So on
Mhm.
that, just with keeping that context in mind,
Sure.
IBM is a strong advocate for open innovation in AI. Could you elaborate on why open innovation is crucial for advancement in AI technologies?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let me begin by saying before AI too, IBM has been a strong proponent and supporter of open technology. If you go back to
Correct.
our investments in Linux and operating system,
Yes.
what we did with Eclipse and Java, we were doubling down on and invested and supported, encouraged, in helped form foundations for open for all of these technologies. And we see AI as no different. In fact, if anything, given what we have been discussing and how profound this technology is, we really think it is even more important than before for this to be grounded on open innovation. Why? So, a few simple things. One, we firmly believe that open technologies are is about more eyes looking at it and shaping the technology in the best way possible. So it is more secure. You're going to have better feedback. You're going to understand the risks and pitfalls of the technology better because you're going to have more people able to contribute and shape. And we see the power of open innovation communities. The rate and pace of what we see in AI is outstanding, and we definitely think that's crucial. I think the second piece of open relates to the fact that we believe that a technology like AI, it requires stakeholders of every type to participate.
Yes.
The trouble we could run into is because it requires substantial capital and data to train these models, at least the biggest models. We run the risk of making this technology the domain of just a few. We think that is a mistake because then we are losing out on the broader ecosystem. AI has a role to play in academia, in fact, and faculty and students, in industrial labs, in national labs, labs that are providing fundamental science. So the reason why, in fact, IBM jointly with Meta and with other organizations launched the AI Alliance last year was
Right.
really to say open innovation requires bringing together diverse stakeholders. It's not just about big tech companies. It's not just about startups. It's not just about governments. It's not just about national labs. It's not just about academia. It's about all of these people coming together and shaping what it means to build safe AI, shaping what benchmark should happen. So we believe all of these things should happen in the open environment. And the last piece I would say for open is historically we have seen that the most transformative technologies that underpin are the world we live in today. When you think about the internet, when you think about the networking protocols, when you think about protocols that govern HTML, HTTP browsing, these
Right.
are all, and the world's most employed operating system, the Linux operating system, is based on an open source kernel. So we have learned that for profound technologies that are going to have widespread impact, an open approach to developing the technology is the way we build it for the best of everybody. And we think that's same going to be true for AI as well.
Great. Now that you brought the internet and the kind of learnings that we might have, from setting it up, bringing that model up, generative AI is becoming more and more sophisticated.
Mhm.
And of course, there are concerns about, the responsible use.
Yes.
Uh, how can we ensure these models are developed and deployed ethically, and what steps are essential to prevent biases or any kind of misuse in generative AI?
Yeah, so I think again a great question, and it goes back to I connected back to open, and then I'll develop it from there. One of the
Absolutely.
reasons why I believe an open foundation is important, an open approach to AI is important. It allows models to be built, introspected, leveraged, tested, benchmarked by an open community, as opposed to a one organization or one entity developing it, and then okay, it's whatever it is. This is whatever I tell you this model does, as opposed to everybody having an opportunity to work with it, deploy it, and touch the technology and improve the technology. And so transparency at some level, openness and transparency, we think is critical for trustworthy AI. But I also think the second important element, and particularly again wearing the enterprise lens, is to look at it as a life cycle problem. So you cannot have a trustworthy AI system by just focusing on data, by just focusing on model, by just doing testing before deployment, or just looking at testing when after you deploy. You have to do all of the above. So for an AI system to be trustworthy, you need to instrument trust at every step of the life cycle of onboarding a model, testing a model, deciding what prompt engineering or tuning you do on the model, validating the model, deploying it in an application, and continuing to live monitor it. So a life cycle approach is important. And the third piece of this is, I would say, we use the word responsible AI, maybe trustworthy AI. We've used the word AI governance sort of synonymously. The way I think about it is responsible AI is what companies should be looking to do. Now, responsible AI has two pieces to it. What is the technology I should use to do responsible AI? That is trustworthy AI. This is what are the algorithms? What are the techniques? How do I test for bias? How do I fix bias? How do I make models? That's the technology. And there is the principles around what should I do? What should I be doing? And the principles are either the company's own principles or these are laws of the land as AI regulations start to come. So I view responsible AI as trustworthy AI, the technology, plus AI governance, which is the instrumentation or the business process. Together, you get responsible AI. So a company must look at responsible AI on two fronts. What is the technology I need to deploy? That's trustworthy AI. And what best practices do I need to institute in my organization across every step of the life cycle? That even if I have all the technology, if I don't instrument it correctly, I'm not going to have a responsible AI system. That I think is the overarching message we give our clients as they think about this.
Interesting. When you spoke about trustworthiness and you spoke about the different kind of, you mentioned different kinds of stakeholders to ensure that kind of trustworthiness.
Right.
Who are these people? If you could just elaborate on that piece a little bit.
Yeah. So think about in an organization, you have a few personas that are involved in building and deploying an AI system. There is
Hmm.
obviously today with generative AI, one of the big decisions you're making as a company is what is the model that I'm using as a base model? Because most companies, other than the technology companies, not the ones developing the base models, right? So it goes back to our previous conversation. Would you prefer to bet on an open model, a model that is transparent, about which you know what data went into it, or what exact combination of data went into it, what training went into it? So I think that is a choice for companies to make on what base model that they start with. That
Right.
is really something, as I think it is a technology platform decision that the CIO, the CTO, they decide to me what models am I going to use. The second major stakeholder is, again, almost at the CIO, CTO level, is what is the platform I'm going to use to do AI governance? And again, that is a choice. And again, they're going to have to look across the landscape of technology vendors to see where am I running my IT systems today? Because remember, every big enterprise runs their IT in multiple places. They may have an on-prem environment. They may be in multiple clouds. They may be in one cloud in one country, in another cloud in another country. So how
Yeah.
do I think, what platform do I use so that I am able to govern AI, because I'm going to be doing AI in all of these places? This is, again, I view as a CIO, CTO level decision. Then comes the responsibility of the individual data science application developer. Then you need to give them the tools to say, okay, you are building a use case. What model should you use? Is this the model that is approved in your organization for this use case? How are you tracking the data that you bring in when you do the testing of the model? What tests must you run? Where are the tests going to get tracked? When it gets deployed, who decides? Typically, the application owner decides what are the things we must constantly monitor the model for. The model
Right.
may have been bias free when you tested it, but after it deployed and maybe the model changed, maybe it learned along the way, it developed biases that were not true at testing time. How do we detect it?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
eventually everybody's involved. The CIO, CTO making model level, platform level decisions, and then every data scientist, application developer needs to be equipped with the skills and the tools to instrument the model all along its life cycle to truly be able to achieve this. Which is why we think eventually, as more and more AI gets embedded into applications, there isn't going to be an application that doesn't have some form of AI in it, right? That's the world we are going into. You're going to see AI governance really get integrated into broader software engineering. So as we talk about DevOps and just normal software engineering, AI governance is going to be really integrated. We're not there yet, but I think that's where we are headed.
Seems like a lot of techies are going to have to learn philosophy along the way, governance, all of these things along the way.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I think one of those things is that, and this is where I was trying to distinguish between, the trustworthy side and the AI governance side. Yes, I think technologies have to learn and understand trustworthy AI techniques. That's going to require required skill. But the principles on what I should or should not do, I think it's a company level. Every company has business policies and principles they adhere to. And one of the things we did in IBM, and we share a lot of information, is inside of IBM, we established something called the AI Ethics Board because we recognize that these are complex problems. We
yeah.
deploy AI inside the company as IBM. We also do AI, we do implementations for our customers, which is consulting projects. We sell technology. So we established an AI ethics board. It's actually led by the chief privacy officer of IBM, co-chaired by IBM's chief IBM fellow at technologies, who is IBM's chief AI ethics officer. They co-chair a board, and we have representatives from every part of IBM on that board. And we use that as sort of a central place in which we can start to address these questions. Is this something we are comfortable doing? What are we not comfortable doing? If we are going to implement a project, what additional controls do we want to do so that we are comfortable doing this? I think every organization should start thinking about what these equivalent mechanisms for them is going to look like.
Human intelligence is so nuanced. I wonder, despite the immense potential of generative AI, do you see it eventually surpassing this kind of intelligence or human creativity, or will its true power lie in collaborating with human ingenuity? If you could just elaborate on that a little bit, Mr. Raghavan.
Yeah, so I absolutely believe that it is going to be a combination of humans and AI intelligence working together. I absolutely, but I say that not necessarily is not because of some kind of race where one is going to become better than the other. In fact, I actually believe that there are going to be some things in which the AI is probably going to be better than a human being. Many they probably already are. Actually,
Yeah,
that is okay. That is okay. I mean, it's no different from an automobile can run faster than most human beings, right? So, and I think that's going to be the case. But But I think where we will see this happening is we will start to understand what is the right combination, ways in which we integrate AI into these human systems. And I think that is where our entire conversation comes through. One is how is the technology going to evolve? Second is how do we do it in a safe and responsible way? And I think that is the way we are going to see this going. It's going to be a combination of human and AI intelligence, but it is not going to be because somehow one is better than the other. It is going to be because one may be better than the other in some dimensions. The other is going to be better than the other in these other dimensions. And this collaboration is about using the best of both to move our world forward. That's the way I think about it.
If you could just give us an example of one, sort of a collaboration where this has become really, really successful, a hybrid sort of a, mode, that'll make sense to a lot of our listeners.
No, so I would say every deployment we see within an enterprise, honestly, is of that nature. So if I let me go back to my favorite HR example since we discussed it.
Sure.
Today, our HR professionals work hand in hand with AI. Our employees work hand in hand with AI. It's not as if everything has been replaced. What the AI is doing, the AI is doing what it is good at. The AI is doing the mundane things it is doing, the stuff that is clear to do. Take this action, analyzing documents, verifying documents, pulling up information from a table in a web page. Who is authoring the web page? Who is confirming that this is the human beings are doing those things? The AI is not making those decisions. That is a business decision. So that is the collaboration we are seeing. Likewise, when we even look at nuanced things like recruitment or promotions or so on, what is the AI doing? AI is making humans effective in automatically bringing together and making recommendations on promotion and compensation decisions. But the final decision is still the manager, is the HR professional who says what needs to be done. So I honestly think that this is the way we are already deploying it. But the fear sometimes is, oh, the AI is going to get better and better. Is it going to take over some of these decisions? Yes. And I go back to the responsible AI opportunities now for businesses to decide what that line is. And the answer is not going to be some universal line. You're going to look at it use case at a time. I think that's a dimension we haven't talked about. But we strongly believe, we say that both about responsible AI, about regulation. You shouldn't regulate the technology broadly because the technology is finally mathematics and computer science. You don't regulate that. What you regulate is at a use case level. So the right combination of human decision making and AI decision making may be different if it's an AI recommending, what new footwear you should buy versus a use case where we are making a medical recommendation or a loan recommendation. These are all not the same risk levels. So as you think about the risk of things going wrong, the balance between how much a human should be designing, should the AI simply be providing information, or should we let the AI make some decisions? I think the line will be different by use case. So we believe risk-based approach to both regulation and responsible AI will allow us to make the right decision every use case at a time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raghavan. This was such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for your insights and, for stating the exciting possibilities that generative AI can bring to our world. It was captured so beautifully and so well. The conversation just flowed. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much, Deepti. It's been a pleasure to be on this conversation with you.
The pleasure's mine.